This podcast is brought to you by sarahraven.com, which is home to everything you need for a truly beautiful and productive garden. You'll also find great and essential gardening kit and stylish, lovely things to have in your house to bring the outside indoors, all inspired by the garden and the house being tied together. There's also plenty of garden inspiration, how-to videos and specialist growing guides. So head over to sarahraven.com today to discover even more. Welcome to Grow, Cook, Eat, Arrange, the podcast of me, Sarah Raven. And today I'm joined by Josie Lewis, our head gardener at Perch Hill, because we're doing the August Q&A. So we've requested questions from you that came in last week, and we're going to answer 4 of those, which we feel represent August really well. So kicking off with Josie.
Yes, hello.
Hello.
So we're going to talk about dahlias, as always, in August. And one of the questions is, how do you prevent your dahlias from being eaten by pests? And how do you keep them healthy going into late summer? So at this time in August, your dahlias should be really a sizable plant now and shouldn't hopefully be attacked by slugs so much. That's earlier in the season. So I'm not going to concentrate on slugs. Hopefully they've got past that stage.
Yeah.
Earwigs we get a lot of questions about, but I mean, we don't get them so much here, do we? It's not something we struggle with, but we think of earwigs as friends, not enemies, because they're great for eating aphids and things like that. So, but if they are really bothering your dahlias, then, put an upturned pot in your dahlia patch on a stick, a little terracotta pot stuffed with straw, and the earwigs will hide in that once daylight comes, and then you can empty them out into a hedge or somewhere, or, where you've got an infestation of aphids on your roses.
Great.
Yeah, and the other thing that we do a lot here at this time of year is stripping the lower leaves. So like tomatoes, you want good airflow. So as the leaves start to yellow, just strip them off. So you've got bare legs, basically. Make sure also that you remove any falling petals. So as the flower heads start to go over, either live head them for the vase if they're still fine, or as soon as they start to drop their petals, take that head off, because when these petals land on the leaves, and if it's damp or if there's rain, botrytis will set in so quickly and start rot off in the leaves. So, get those petals cleared off your dahlias as soon as possible.
Such a good tip, that. I remember you did an Instagram post about it, and it's just such a good tip that when it's wet, they drop their petals and then they drop onto the leaves, and then it becomes this sort of source of botrytis, and you get a real problem. So, yeah.
And it's so quick, it sets in.
Yeah, it's a really good tip. Well, my question that I've been sent is, I've missed the boat on my garden this year and want to plan ahead for next year. I want to add some structure to my garden, so what shall I use? Well, I think that you've got to have the odd evergreen. There's obviously a huge debate at the moment going on about box. Lots of people are taking it out, including Monty Don, because he's got such bad box caterpillar. We have not taken ours out, and I'm really glad. I'm really dreading taking it out because I love the structure that they give through the winter, covered in snow or frost, the beautiful shapes that you get. And we've got pheromone traps, which seem to work. And also, to be honest, we have given our box in late autumn last year a very, very hard prune. So much so that 2 or 3 of them haven't actually come back into leaf over the whole dome. But the rest have. It took a while, but they have. So I'm still a mad fan of those. But also, I really adore rosemary for structure. And you could go for the very upright one, which is called Miss Jessop's Upright. Very easy to propagate. So you could buy one at a garden centre, take 20 cuttings from one plant, and you've got a hedge at very little cost. So I think rosemary is really good. I love foxtail, which has got very silvery underside to the leaf, which makes it very elegant. I love any of the blue flowered varieties like Tuscan blue, absolutely fabulous. And I've banged on in the past about our scented bench that we have on a south-facing moor here, which has just got 3 Tuscan blue cuttings planted 5-6 years ago, coming up through a satted bench, and it looks fabulous literally all year. So however small or big a garden, I would do that. And I would use one of those classic evergreens to give you structure, perhaps plus one of the sort of suitable garden trees, so small trees, Amelanchier, any of the acers, perhaps a fruit tree on a small rooting stock, and they are very happy in pots, a lot of them. So you could have them either in the ground or in a pot. So those would be my main tips for structure for the garden throughout the year.
And if you miss the boat again, you can make teepees.
Oh, very good point. You can indeed.
So my next question is to do with mildew, how to prevent it and treat it when it comes. So mildew we associate with quite a lot of plants, really, typically courgettes and sweet peas by late to midsummer. Yeah, all sorts of plants suffer with mildew. The main thing is to have the plants in healthy soil, so get them growing strongly and they'll grow through attacks by fungal diseases. So first call is always look after your soil. And then if you see mildew starting, it can be due to high humidity levels. So that's when the spores tend to land on the leaves and get going. And so that's when we first see them on the leaves, that's when we'll treat them. And being organic, we use a bicarb spray. We've said it so many times, haven't we? The sodium bicarbonate spray. So that won't kill the fungus, but it just creates an alkaline environment on the leaf where the fungal spores can't germinate as quickly. So it just slows it down.
Do you know, I didn't know that, Josie. I didn't know it was to do with pH.
Yes, yeah, that's what I gather. And that's why, some people use milk. That changes the pH of the leaves as well.
I love these tips.
Reducing humidity, keeping your plants healthy. And as soon as you see it, as soon as it starts, a bicarb spray would be my advice.
Very good. So the last one is I'm about to go on holiday for 2 weeks and I'm worried about all my containers completely drying out. Do you have any top tips? Yes, we do. So first thing is physically move your pots to shady spots. And, if you can bring them in against the north face of a hedge or north face of the building, it will make a huge difference to their exposure and evaporation. The second thing is I would definitely have lined them, ideally, with something like hortiwool. And it's too late to do that now in August if you haven't already got it, but it really helps. And what I would do is put a good wad of something like hortiwool or capillary matting underneath the pot. So if it does rain, it absorbs it and keeps it. Ask your neighbour or a friend to come in maybe once a week to just douse the whole thing. I mean, that isn't enough. And if they could come in Monday, Wednesday and Friday, so much the better, but that would be quite a devoted friend. So that's probably not so realistic. And then the other thing to think about is maybe these water reservoirs. So we tried Osmogel 1 year here, but it happened to be a very wet summer. And actually we had lots of really drought-loving plants like rosemary in pots and pelargoniums. The roots just literally rotted off because they were sitting in this Osmogel in their compost, and it was just too moist. It was like in a pond. But you can use these terracotta water reservoirs, and so fill them up and then ease them down into the side of the compost as deep as you can get it, so they don't evaporate so much. So it's common sense as much as anything, but that will really help. And I do think just getting a friend to go in if you possibly can, at least once when you're away, will make a huge difference. And trade, say you'll do it for them, they do it for you.
Yes, I think that's it. There's the old plastic bottle, the empty.
Yes, of course, if you haven't got terracotta.
Drinks bottle. Yeah. That's a nice, cheap, quick way to do it. Holes in the cap.
Leave the cap on.
Holes in the cap.
The cap.
Yeah. Cut the so what would be the bottom of the bottle off, and then you can fill it up with water easily.
Yeah. Make a water funnel, and that will drip slowly.
Yes, poke that into the compost.
A few days that will last. It'll drip through, but at least the compost will be good and wet for the first few days of your holiday.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Great. Well, that's it. Send more questions in if you want to for next month and the month after. And I hope that was interesting and educative. Thank you, Josie.
Okay.
If you've enjoyed this episode of Grow, Cook, Eat, Arrange, I'd really love it if you reviewed, rated and subscribed on wherever you listen to your podcasts. It'll help new listeners to know that we're here and enable us to keep getting the very best and most interesting guests week after week.